Introduction. Didn't sound like me really, but I should say it's a real pleasure to be here. I think as Ujjwal said, and Dinesh said, 2,500 years of experience with children. I have 14 of my own in school and maybe 8 or 9 with my son Arjun, so it really is, nothing compared to yours. But I think the purpose of us being here, and I just want to thank Dinesh very much for having us over here and to share our experiences. And what I thought I would do is just maybe, just give a little brief glimpse into my life so you see where are some of the areas where I, made my mistakes. Then talk a little bit about the concept of leadership and, what I've seen across all the different countries and jobs. What are the few things that really matter? There are many things that we think matter, but at least my own feeling of what really, really matters. And then how I relate that to school, because I have my own school experience, but probably the more useful one is my son's current school experience. He's in class 7, and really what I see, how he's been through. You saw my life, it's in many countries. So my little Arjun at the age of 12 has been in 5 schools and 5 countries. And so I've seen different schools and what's been really valuable for him and not. So I'll share some of that as well. So just starting with my own life, I'm completely born, brought up in Kolkata, and I did my school, college, everything from there. My college has recently become extremely famous because of Abhijit Banerjee, the Nobel Prize winner. And so we have 2 economics Nobel Prize winners from presidency, and our WhatsApp group has gone completely wild. So that's where I come from. I'm from Kolkata. And then I did my MBA. In fact, Dinesh and I were batchmates in Ahmedabad. And Dinesh and my husband were dorm mates, which is an even more important relationship. And I'll talk about that aspect of friends from college and what that means. And then since then, I've been in a few different countries. And what I've seen is, in all the, whether it's been leadership roles, being, leadership at the top or leadership in the middle or leadership from the bottom, they're really, I think Ujjwal talked very nicely about 3 things, right? Change, then what doesn't change, and then, what are some of the continuous improvement points, right? And I totally, see that. But I'll just come at it, and maybe add 3 other dimensions. So I'm sure you'll take a lot of notes and then you'll see what matters. But from my perspective, what I've seen, the 3 things in leadership that really matter. The first one, and I did not know that for a long time, is really all about the people leadership. Like whatever job I have done or not done, or whatever job my people are doing, what is ultimately the most important is the people aspect of it, right? How do you define their goals? How do you tell them what their job really is? How do you give them the tools to do their job well? How do you inspire them to, give their best every single day? How do you reward them? And if I look at myself, when I was young and growing up, people was, an HR job, human resource function, looked after people, right? And now I feel like my main job is the human resource head of the company, because it is all about people. I spend at least half my time on people related topics. Bringing in the right people, sometimes getting rid of the wrong people, setting the targets, inspiring people, making sure that when you're not watching them, they're willing to give their best, making sure that they're not wanting to go after shortcuts, exactly as Ujjwal said. So really it's that people dimension. And I think there's, you start learning about people. I think family plays a critical role, but I've seen the school system and what it does for the people aspect is incredible. When we were growing up, I was again, like Ujjwal, academics was really what was important. And, it was about being first, second, third, hopefully not third. And, it was just all about that. And at least in my school system, and that was many, many years ago, teamwork, team projects, people aspect was not really the main requirement. And now I see my son's school and it's completely different. They do a lot of work in projects. It's all about bringing the whole class along. He likes maths, he's quite good in maths. My initial thinking was, can the school challenge him by, giving him maybe, tougher math problems. And then the teacher said a fantastic thing to me that, instead of giving him tougher problems, why don't we help, teach him how to help others. And so now at the last 15 minutes of the class, he's made to go around and teach other people. And his own maths has become much better as a result, because it's now not about doing the arithmetic quickly, it's about being able to explain to someone how to do it. So I just feel like the school system now has changed incredibly. I'm sure each of you are driving that teamwork, that team spirit, that success comes together. It's not individual success, but I think that is really very important. And in my entire school life, my college life, I think even in our business school life, the academic piece was quite important. Although the shift started coming in business school when we worked in teams, we got graded in teams, and we took roles as teams. Some people would make Maggie, some would do the presentation, some would just play the music, but we all did it together. Yeah. And it was, it starts there. But I wish I could go back to school now, because now it's starting much younger. So I feel that team dimension, that sharing success dimension, and of course we need to reward individual performance. We can't take that away, because we want kids to excel and work hard. So there is absolute role for that individual recognition, but I think the team recognition piece, I feel, is really important, and that relates very closely to my current job. So that was my first piece around people, about leadership, which is the people. How do you get people excited to go after what could be your dream? How do you make it everyone else's dream? I think the second, I would say, is, I don't know, there are many words for it, but I use the word authenticity, just being yourself. And that is something that, and being confident about yourself, not being arrogant, just being confident, being proud of who you are, knowing your weaknesses, not being ashamed of it. And it's not easy. Because the system, at least the system we grew up in, was a lot about, work on your weaknesses, and improve your weaknesses. And then I went, the turning point for me was when I was in the UK. I was working with Novartis, and I was going for it was basically, I was in the field as a sales manager, and my boss called me. She was a lady, she was the head of the company, and she called me and she said that we want you to come to head office to do this role. It was a much bigger role. And I said that, no, actually, you can't, you don't really want me. And she said, why? And I said, actually, I haven't shared with you, but I'm 3 months pregnant. And, just when the launch is happening, I'll be delivering my child. So I really don't think you're the right person for that job. And then she told me something which changed my life completely. She said, I would rather have 6 more months of you than 2 years of somebody else. And I became hers for life. And it was just that small thing that she just, I'm sure in her mind she said, oh no, what do I do now? But she did not, she just told me exactly what I think I needed to hear. And then of course I did the 6 months, I went for 2 months maternity, I came back. But it was just that confidence, and it was that turning point. And she told me very clearly, don't focus on what you don't have, focus on what you have. And that is all that is completely in your control. If someone tells you you don't have this experience, go back and tell them what experience you do have. Now that sounds arrogant, and I don't mean it in that sense, but it's about being confident about who you are, not worrying about what you don't have. And I think their school plays a huge role. I see that with my son, I see that with other children, and schools now are so much better, and I'm sure all of you are really, stars at that, at helping the kids find their own little niche, or what they are really good at. Some will be good at academics, some will be good at sports, some will be good at culture, some will be social entrepreneurs, and how the school can help them feel proud about what they really are good at. I think that is a huge skill, and I think that is actually best coming from the school. Families can do it, but school can do it even better, because you have this diverse pool of children, and you want all your children to be, stars. I think Dinesh asked the question, how many of your students are, in excelling in what they do? And I'm sure you all want everyone to be, in that game. So that is, I think, really important. How do you inspire that sense of authenticity, that sense of self-confidence, that sense of, knowing who you are? It is as important to know your weaknesses, but just, reveling in your strengths, knowing your weaknesses, so you stay humble, you stay grounded. But I think that's where school plays a very important role. And that's my second point about leadership, which is that authenticity. And the last one, I think, is, I call it the making choices when there is a crisis, that what happens, things will go wrong. These two are all positives, right? But I'm sure in all our lives, in Dinesh's life, Ujjwal's life, there have been moments when things go wrong. There have been moments where it's very tempting to take that shortcut. There have been moments where it's very easy to give up. And that's when we need that resilience, that integrity to just stay with it and just keep going, even if the whole world thinks you are completely messed up. And I think that, and I think you talked about it as mental health, but that piece, which is how do you manage, for us those are normally business crises, right? It could be, currency collapses. For us it was a 70% price cut we got on our biggest product thanks to the Prime Minister a few weeks ago. So those are different types of crises we get, it just depends on what it is. In business it's very black and white, in a personal life it could be health related, it could be family related, but that ability to pull it all back in a crisis, I think is probably the third most important thing I feel of good leaders, is to be able to see that light at the end of the tunnel, to be able to pull yourself back together. And it's very true, when things are going wrong in office, I cannot walk into office with a grim face. I have to be even more energized. I have to be even more energizing. I have to be even more excited about the future. There is just no room to have, you are all leaders, right? There is no room for you to walk in to school being depressed. You just can't. You have to leave it behind when you walk through that door, right? And that ability for our children to just pull it back all together when things are going wrong. It could be bad marks, it could be, a friend who's leaving, it could be some bullying in school, which is much more cyberbullying these days, but it happens a lot. And in those moments, of course, we should ideally stop it from happening, but it will happen in life. So I actually, every time it happens, either with Arjun or with one of his friends, I don't talk about how it shouldn't happen, because it will happen in life. It happens in all our lives. It's about what you can do. I mean, you can't control everyone else, it's what you can do. So I think that third piece, how do you pull it all back together when things are going wrong, is for me probably the third most important part of leadership. So it's the people leadership, it's the authenticity, just be who you are, doesn't matter what culture, what company, what situation, you are who you are. The more honest you are with yourself, the more people will trust you. And the last piece is crisis. And crisis management might be the wrong word, it's how do you build yourself back together when things go wrong. So, and I think that's where I'll stop, because it's really, those are the only things I wanted to say through some stories and examples. But I feel, honestly and very humbly, I have to say, the role that school plays in both good and bad ways, but the roles that schools play to, empower the children, to make the children find their own little sweet spot, and to make them shine is even more important today than it was when we were growing up. Because it is such an important, like when we were growing up, at least when I was growing up, the time I would leave home would be probably after college. Nowadays many kids are leaving at the end of class 12, potentially even at the end of class 10. So it's really those 14 years from kindergarten to 12 that we as parents have them at home, and most of the time they are with you in school. So the role of school is so important, and I really am so excited that so many of you, 100 of you, are here taking time off your day job to think about how you can drive leadership in our children. So thanks a lot, thanks for the opportunity, and really all the best to all of us to shape this next generation. Thank you.